All right, Zach, there's a saying, there's no crying in baseball. But no one ever said there's no lying, there's no cheating, and there's no controversy. So today we're talking about the 5 most controversial players in baseball. We're going to start off at number 5, and that is Alex Rodriguez. Yeah, so first on the list is Alex Rodriguez, and before he became well known for being the ex-fiancé of Jennifer Lopez, believe it or not, he actually made a career on the baseball diamond.
Yeah, he could hit a baseball or two.
He could hit a baseball. He was the youngest player to hit 500 home runs, the youngest player to hit 600 home runs. At the time in 2000 when he signed his 10-year contract, it was the largest contract in sports history at that time. 10 years, $250 million. What did you think about Alex Rodriguez?
I mean, yeah, I think he's definitely in the top 10, of players we got to watch. Just a player that was constantly filled with drama. He kind of had that it factor. Him and Bonds kind of had that presence at the plate on the field where you didn't want to hit it near him, you didn't want to throw a ball near him, anything like that. But yeah, it was filled with a lot of drama. I don't know if he was the best locker room guy. I don't know if I would be his friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a great player.
Yeah, and outside of the controversial love life that sort of stuck with him throughout his career, and even at the end of his career, he actually had a lot of controversy in terms of using performance enhancing drugs. So initially, he was in a pretty well documented interview in 2007 where he denies using performance-enhancing drugs or PEDs. But it was later proven that he actually was, from the years 2001 to 2003, but he was using PEDs, and sort of throughout his career, he was using steroids. And in 2014, Major League Baseball actually gave him a full season suspension, so a pretty hefty suspension. He wasn't the only player that was suspended, but he did get the longest suspension. So a full season worth of games that he was out. And again, like you said, Zach, he had a great career, but unfortunately he has this shadow looming over his head of, he was a steroid user.
And, if A-Rod played in Milwaukee his whole career,
yeah,
do you think we'd be hearing about, all
there
this stuff?
There might have been a lot less controversy surrounding A-Rod, but because he played for the high-profile Yankees, it's sort of the nature
New York,
of the beast.
It does it to you.
Brooklyn, New York. Anyways, we're going to move on to number 4, but before we do that, we got to make sure we say goodbye to our friends here. So,
bye, guys.
Yeah, see you guys later.
All right, so next on the list, we got a legendary guy here. Some might say for his playing capabilities, some might say for the controversy he brought. But we got Shoeless Joe Jackson. Tell us a little about him, Kev.
Yeah, so Shoeless Joe Jackson, he was part of the 1919 Chicago White Sox team that made it to the World Series, better known as the Chicago Black Sox because of the cheating scandal that they were involved in. And we're going to give a quick, brief history on these Chicago Black Sox, but if you haven't heard about them, I really encourage you to look it up, whether you're a baseball fan or not. This is a very interesting story.
It's got the mob involved and everything.
It's a classic American gangster story.
Yeah, seriously.
So just to give some context, the Chicago White Sox in 1919 they were considered like the best team in baseball. They won the American League pennant, they made it to the World Series, and they were going to play the Cincinnati Reds in a best-of-9 series at that time, actually. So a crazy long series, yeah.
Crazy.
A few of the players got involved with some pretty prominent gamblers, and they actually hatched a plan to throw the World Series. So throw the World Series games. Purposely
not
lose.
A regular season.
Not a regular season
World
game.
Series.
A World Series game, in order to receive payments of $100,000. So each player would get, $100,000.
That's a lot of money back then.
That's a lot of money back then. So to put it in context, Joe Jackson, so Shoeless Joe Jackson, who we'll talk about, he was a member of that team. His salary that year was $6,000 for the year, right? So throwing the game for $100,000.
It's a good investment.
It could be a good investment, right? And he was one of the higher paid players on his team, so some of the other guys that were involved were getting paid even less. Yeah. And so
they literally might have been getting paid in Coney dogs for all we know back then.
Slider dogs.
There was no player union, right?
No player
union. There was nothing. So, I mean, guys were getting paid under the table, I would assume.
Yeah, and so you're spot on. A lot of the guys who actually were involved when they later testified in front of a grand jury, they didn't really have any excuse. Their explanation was, I needed to feed the wife and kids. And
you can't really blame them.
Yeah, so they get involved with some gamblers. The mob gets involved, allegedly, right? So there's the money's coming from a lot of different kind of shady sources. The players actually wanted to receive the installments in $20,000 each. So essentially, every time they lost the game, they wanted to receive, a fifth of the money. understandably, right? Two pitchers were involved. They purposely throw their games, right? So like games lost by like wild pitches and walks and just really poor performances that were almost quite obvious. And
but it's also like it's baseball.
It's also baseball.
So it's like,
You could maybe nerves during World Series. Anyways, these guys become upset that they're not receiving the money regularly, and so when they're down in the series, they're down 4-1. They decide, we change our minds. We're not getting our money. We're gonna try to win this World Series. Unfortunately, it was too late. They started to try to win games, but they did get threats from the mob and some of these gamblers, basically saying like, you need to stick with your deal, or your family's safety is in jeopardy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It really is.
So anyways, it comes down, they lose the series. A year later, it comes out that some of these guys had conspired with these gamblers. They threw the World Series. Shoeless Joe Jackson actually wasn't one of the original members involved in the plan. However, he did admit during like some grand jury testifying that he did receive $5,000 from one of his teammates.
Okay. And he's also like the poster boy of that team.
He's the poster boy of that team.
He's the best player on the team.
He's the best player on the team.
So it's easy to get caught up with the controversy.
Yeah, and he refers to himself as a reluctant participant. I want to read to you his slash line, actually. He was the best performer in this series, by the way, on either team. He slashed 375 batting average, 394 on base, 563 slugging. Do you think he was involved in this plan? Right? Like, the numbers would suggest he wasn't.
You know what, though? He could have been like the fall guy, where it's like, okay, like, Joe will bat cleanup, first inning, first three guys strike out, and then Joe comes up, smack one out of the park. Like it could have been one of those things
so
where it's make it look realistic.
He was a participant that was...
like you're cheating on your on the test, you marked the last one wrong, so it's not 30 out of 30 or 40 out of 40, it's 39 out of 40.
That's a great theory. I like that theory a lot, Zach.
Who knows, though? I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy who likes baseball. But... yeah, this is my 2 cents.
But yeah, all the players involved, including Shoeless Joe Jackson, they did get banned for life. So he's not a member of the Hall of Fame. He never got to play again.
Which I'm sure he didn't even care about.
Well, yeah, and...
because, if he was willing to throw games at that point, baseball probably wasn't his top priority. It was just kind of a way to make money. And real quick, and then we'll go to the next guy, but just think about... the 1919, like what happened 5 years after this or 6 years? The Great Depression, $100,000 for that. They would have been the safest people in America financially.
Yeah.
And baseball players were not. That's another fun fact. They weren't like they are now.
Yeah.
They were not. They were like minor league equivalent to now, where they were just making.
They were making.
Yeah, they were making money.
They were making full-time job type of money.
Yeah, full-time job. But nowadays, you're making.
Yeah.
FU money is what they say.
Yeah, guys, so I really encourage you to take a look at this 1919 World Series team. Just a quick Google search, read about it. They really are quite interesting. I don't think we did their story justice. But next on the list, we're going and moving on to number 3. Yeah, and third on our list is going to be a current player, and that is Jose Altuve, one of my favorite players, pre-controversy, post-controversy. I don't know if anyone likes him. Zach, what are your thoughts on Jose Altuve?
Oh wait, do you have him up on the screen?
Oh yeah. Sorry, he's just so short. That, we pulled him like Wazowski there.
That going back to that though, it's one of those things where it's like he was the true underdog. He literally gave me, I want to say he gave the normal guy faith. He gave everybody that, hey, maybe I could still do it, or maybe that kid that's like this could still do it. And if you're not 6'5", you're not. This guy.
You don't have to be Aaron Judge. You don't have to be 6'6". You could be 5'0".
Yeah, you could be this guy. And I actually love this picture. Like you said, pre-controversy. It was the epitome of baseball. Mm-hmm. This is literally the epitome of baseball. You can be a freak of nature, or you can be the little guy, Altuve. But what he did, what the Astros did, and there's a lot of guys on that team that I really did like. Bregman, I liked his style. Correa, I liked his. He just had that big. He had energy. But what they did, I can't ever look past it.
Him.
I can't. I mean, think about it this way: you inject me with steroids right now. I go up to the plate. No chance. I'm not hitting anything. Nothing. Yeah. You tell me where the ball is going to be, what pitch it's going to be, I probably will still miss, but the chances of hitting the ball or making contact, I mean, I could even throw a ball to a bunt down and get it down. You know, like I'm getting.
Let's get into that.
Way better chances. You know.
You know, just to provide some context, Jose Altuve was, you know, probably the most prominent member on the 2017 World Series winning Houston Astros team.
Crazy story, like sleeping outside of the facility, like trying. Yeah,
he had a very, you know, obviously being a smaller guy, had a rough time breaking into professional baseball.
Scouting reports were saying, you know, this
no
guy's
one
too
really
small,
thought highly of him. He breaks into the league. He becomes an all-star. He wins an MVP. He wins batting titles, like one of the best hitters in the entire league. He beat out Aaron Judge for his MVP award. And the Astros, you know, 100-game winning team. They make the playoffs.
They, you know, the storyline.
They have a great run.
Team is crazy.
They beat the Yankees in to win the American League pennant. They beat the stacked Dodgers to win the World Series. But it then comes out that they didn't do so honestly. So do you want to break down what exactly happened with these Astros?
It's crazy. You know, there's a lot to break down with this whole thing, and it's been talked about for so long now. But basically, they were using cameras. They were using trash cans in the dugout. They were, you know, some people think they were using buzzers. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't really know what to think. I mean, baseball. If you know baseball, you know you cheat to a degree. I mean, if you're on second base, you're stealing signs. Yeah. You know, if Kiermaier, you see Kiermaier got the card, he sold the card at home. Like, I don't think that's bad. Because you drop it on the ground, you have that card.
Sort of the nature of the game, yeah.
But if you're paying the center field cameraman, you know, under the table to film and send us a direct live feed to our dugout or whatever I don't even know what they were doing.
That's
exactly
what's happening. Is they had cameras from the center field stands pointed to the catcher, very, very similar to how you would watch a baseball game on TV, except they were using those cameras. There was a live feed going into essentially like the bullpen, dugout, clubhouse areas where other members of the team could see what signs were coming and then could use audio cues like banging a trash can to let the batter, their teammate, know what pitch was coming.
Yeah.
There's even allegations of Jose Altuve potentially using a buzzer on his chest where he would, you know, get a buzz if, like, for example, an off-speed pitch was coming versus a fastball. There's this great, you know, image of when Altuve hits a home run off Aroldis Chapman to win a game.
One of, like, the greatest. Yeah, I mean, if there was no controversy behind it.
Yeah, like what an amazing,
absolutely insane
moment. Yeah. But, you know, there's some allegations that he was wearing a buzzer because his teammates are trying to take his jersey off in celebration, and he wanted to make sure he kept it on.
And I mean, he said the reason why behind it was his wife was mad at him for a previous celebration. It's like, okay, I could see possibly that being a situation, but in the reality, like, no. You just sent your team.
You just sent your team
to the World Series, and you can't sell it. Like, there's already, you know, women already are after him. So that home run isn't going to make any more. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a big load of crap.
On the same vein of your point of, you know, steroids versus knowing what pitch is coming, and, you know, in this case how the Astros cheated. These Astros, you know, very dissimilar to how the MLB treated steroid users like Alex Rodriguez. None of these Astros got in trouble. In fact,
that's where I think that's really where I get.
That's where a lot of the controversy stems from. In fact, in order for them to essentially participate in the investigation, they were granted immunity to answer honestly, and so that's why, even though they admitted to cheating, not a single one of the players received any type of suspension. And so now, obviously, Jose Altuve is still in the big leagues. He's still playing well.
He's actually having a pretty good season.
He's having a pretty good season, but there's a lot less fans he has. I think unless you're a Houston Astros fan, you probably hate the guy. And if you're
a Yankee fan, I know you hate him.
If you're a Yankee fan, you're a Dodgers fan, you hate him.
You despise this guy. So.
And and I think it's unfortunate because before the cheating, he was probably one of the, like, any baseball fan you'd ask, he's in your top 5 favorite players, regardless of, you know, what team you're a fan of, just because of his story and his stature.
Exactly. And you notice how, like, certain players on that team get hate more than others.
Yeah.
Like Bregman gets like nothing.
Bregman gets like none of it.
Like
yeah.
not for I don't know why, because like
it
he
is quite
was
interesting. Yeah.
wasn't he like, I want to say he won some type of,
I mean, he was a
accolade
Silver Slugger
that
time
year.
too.
Yeah, it's like, you know, big World Series.
Yeah.
He stepped up in the world. Correa, like he gets a lot of hate because I think the way he
almost none of the
media
pitchers get like any. Hate.
And it's like, you guys are the biggest cowards because if it was being done to you, you would be like, oh, this is a big crisis, you know. So it's just it was one of those things where it's like, you guys tried way too hard.
Yeah.
You tried way too. You did it, but you tried way too hard.
It was a team of cheaters that took it onto a level that had not been seen in Major League Baseball up to that point, and or even since then. And again, like you said, cheating is just naturally, it's been a part of the game since its inception. This was more than cheating. They took it a little too far. So that was third on our list, and we're going to move on to number 2.
All right, well, number 2, this guy, if you ever go to Las Vegas, you can see this guy sitting outside a lot of memorabilia places. You can get a picture with this guy. If you went to Vegas,
it was probably because he invited you.
Yeah, seriously. You know what? Next time I'm going to Vegas, I'm remembering this. I'm getting a picture with Pete Rose, and I'm going to put it on our socials. So, Pete Rose, I think the controversy behind this guy is like the weakest controversy, and like it shouldn't even be a thing in my opinion. The next 2 guys I feel like are kind of like this. I'm
gonna actually agree with you here. I think the reason why this guy in particular is higher up on this list isn't necessarily because of what he did.
It's how he got. Yeah,
I think it's the type of player he was. Right, he's the all-time hits leader.
Player coach,
one of the best players of all time, one of the best pure hitters of all time.
I mean, hustle. He literally
Charlie
was the epitome of hustle. Like, you know,
But he was known for being, you know, essentially the biggest gambler of his time, and you know, even during his playing days, it was very well documented that he loved to bet on horse racing. He loved to bet on football games and other sports. However, when he started managing the Reds, it came out that he actually was betting on, both as a manager and back in his playing days, he was betting on his own games.
To win.
So that's where this is different than those 1919 Chicago Black Sox and Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yeah.
He wasn't throwing games. This to me is just a mark of the utmost like true confidence in his own abilities. He thought that he was going to win every game. To bet on yourself, I mean, let's be honest. When you play in any sport game, you're kind of betting on yourself. Who goes into a game expecting to lose, right?
Well, and that's just a rule that the MLB made. Mm-hmm. That's not illegal. That's like Floyd Mayweather legally can bet on himself to win a fight. Wow. Fighters can, and I don't think an NFL or, you know, all those organized sports like that, the team sports,
they try to stay away from gambling in general. Yeah.
But it's like, if we're betting on your team to lose, get out of here. You're done.
Get banned from baseball.
Banned from baseball. Banned from any sport. Yeah. Banned from life.
From Vegas.
Get out of here.
Go home.
But if you are betting on your team to win, that's. I actually want to see that a little more, because if some of these players had some of their salaries on the line, I'm sure they would play 10 times better. And, you know, I mean, not that should be a thing, but the Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame.
Another guy who's banned from baseball. Yeah.
What are we doing? And I mean, the guy's a legend. Look at him. Look at him. Look at this guy. I mean, you look at this guy and you just see a double. You know, or you see
a triple.
You see
a triple.
RBI.
That should have been a double.
Exactly. I mean, it's a guy that is the epitome of hard work, teamwork, and I mean, just, you know, he had his problems off the field, and I mean, technically on the field, but he's a legend, and I think everyone's got to give their respect to Pete Rose.
And that's where a lot of the controversy lies, is that, you know, there's this huge divide in baseball fans, and I actually think a majority of baseball fans think that Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. And that's really where, you know, there is this controversial aspect of Pete Rose, is that Major League Baseball has not reinstated him, and yet the majority
think he ever will be.
And yeah, who knows, time will tell, but he was number 2 on our list. We're going to move on to number 1, the most controversial player of baseball of all time. All right, and the number 1 most controversial player of all time, again, mostly because of the type of player he was and his prominence in his playing days, is going to be the San Francisco Giants' very own Barry Bonds, one of both of our favorite players of all time. Why don't you go ahead and give us a little background on Barry?
So, I mean, Barry Bonds, what can you say? I mean, in my opinion, I think in your opinion too, he's the best. He's the greatest of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and, he's just had mentors from some of the greatest players. Willie Mays, his own father.
Bobby Bonds.
Bobby Bonds, Willie McCovey, all these guys were just, just his role models and, kind of shaped his play. And people forget before Barry Bonds is, big, these days where he's juiced, huge, hitting the ball 500 plus feet. This guy was a 30-30 guy,
mm-hmm.
a consistent, he would go out there and he stole bags. He's a Gold Glover, had a crazy arm. I mean, this guy was a 5-tool guy up until his, later years. Yeah. But, what can't you say about Barry Bonds? He's a household name. He's up there with the Tom Bradys, the Muhammad Alis.
Yeah.
Everyone knows him.
Yeah, and to give, some context on the controversy behind Barry Bonds, he's the all-time home run leader. He's the all-time single-season home run leader. So home runs and Barry Bonds are about as synonymous as it gets when it comes to baseball. Fortunately, Barry Bonds was, one of the alleged steroid users of his day. And even that being said, his alleged steroid use started in around 1999. I just want to give you some context. In his career up until that point, so up until 1998, he was a .290 career hitter and had already hit 411 career home runs. So
absolutely insane.
For the sake of the argument, let's say he absolutely takes steroids. Let's just agree on that for the
cut
sake
the
of the
career
video.
there.
Yeah, and if you cut the career there, he's still a pretty sure first ballot Hall of Famer type of guy. Now that being said, a lot of the controversy lies in the fact that he is the all-time home run king, yet he is somebody who has, very likely taken steroids. And this is I think a story that hits pretty close to home because, you guys went to the same high school, right? So he's a legend for you. He's a legend in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And, the center that he was getting his steroids from, Balco, was actually in Burlingame, so that's my hometown. So this is a very local story. It involved a San Francisco Giants, ball player, and essentially the best baseball player of his time, maybe of all time, and yet he's just always going to have this, steroid use.
And like I said,
his career.
Like I said, the steroid thing, I don't. It's an argument that you'll never win with certain people. And I've said in the past, if he was on the Dodgers or on other teams where I didn't like, I would probably hate the guy.
You probably wouldn't like him.
But it's one of those things that when you have to speak with passion about something, and if you gave this guy a buzzer, give him the Altuve MVP year, he hits 100 home runs. I'm not kidding.
If you give Barry Bonds, instead of taking steroids, if Barry Bonds had the technology to steal signs,
Barry off speed.
Yeah,
low inside.
His single season home run record would not have been 73 home runs. It would have been 173 home runs.
It would have just been ridiculous. And not just him. Mark McGwire.
There's so many guys that take steroids.
Ken Griffey Jr. I'm not saying Griffey did. I'm just saying give all Mark those guys
McGwire,
the buzzers.
Juan Gonzalez, Gary Sheffield.
Canseco. Canseco was nothing compared to those guys. But, Canseco. The list goes on and on. Pitchers that Clemens, all these guys.
During the 90s and the early 2000s, a majority of the prominent baseball players of that day were steroid users, whether we want to admit it or not.
Barry Bonds, he's just a poster boy.
He's the poster boy for it because he was the poster boy for baseball. So unfortunately, despite his great career, he does make the top of our list for most controversial baseball players.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for watching. This has been your favorite baseball channel. Make sure to like and to subscribe to the channel. It's free. Subscribing is free. It is.
And we also just started a Twitch, too, so you can find us on there. It's YF Baseball Channel. So go check us out there. We're gonna do some
link is in the description.
Yeah, we'll have that in the description. We're gonna do rank or tier or ranks and stuff like that. We'll just do a lot of stuff. It's gonna be a little different than the YouTube. style. But
make sure you follow us on our socials. We'll have all the links in the description. Thank you again so much for watching, and go ahead and let us know in the comments what you think about these controversial figures, and if there's somebody we left on the list. We'd love to hear about it. And on the topic of Barry Bonds, that might be an entire video, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah, really.
And thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, dudes.